And joining us in studio to my extreme left is Thembiso Ndlovu, Secretary General of the South African Union of Students. We have Chris Malimaja, he's the Sanko Gauteng Provincial Chairperson, and Andile Mqitama is the National Convener of Black First, the Land First. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. And you at home, our panelists, most valued, you're welcome to join in 011-542-2186 or tweet at ANN7TV. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you think that the so-called opinion poll, or was referendum opinion poll, is what potentially caused or incited so much violence today? Thembiso, so we'll start with you.
No, I think that we've made our views to be known that Professor Adam Habib must be able to choose between him being a political analyst and a vice-chancellor of Wits University. And Prof. Habib must stop reducing issues of students to polls. Because students have voted in polls, they voted for their own leadership. Therefore, Prof. Habib must go down and speak with the SRC of Wits University.
But why isn't there that level of engagement, though? We see things happening in parallels or in tandem where there is a multi-ministerial position, education commission, etc. Why is there not a concerted effort to be around the table? There is nothing called
parallel. There is nothing called parallel VETs. There is one Professor Adam Habib who refused to understand what is he at VETs. He's a vice-chancellor of VETs. He must not go around speaking as a political analyst. He must go down and speak with the duly elected student representative council of VETs. And once Professor Adam Habib can do that, we want to find a long-lasting solution at VETs. And also, again, we must condemn with contempt that it deserves people who want to appoint themselves as leadership of students while they are not voted for.
Yeah,
there's an SRC at VETs, and then we cannot have some demagogues.
Yeah, and divisive, rather, what is happening on campuses around the country. But the bigger issue, of course, is around free education, decolonization of institutions, and so it goes on. But there's another pressing matter, that of the academic year for 2016 and the repercussions thereof. Andile.
The important thing is that the students are out because they want free education, and there's national consensus that there must be free education. I think we must move away from criminalizing students and making them the problem. They are not the problem. The cause of this ongoing crisis in our institutions of higher learning is because there's no free education. It's not been provided, it's been promised over and over again. So this first thing we need to do is to make a clear call. Students are not criminals. They are involved in a legitimate struggle. Those who are arrested must be released. Universities are not places for police and private security to brutalize students. Adam Habib and other vice-chancellors are now using the repressive arm of the state to come and brutalize students, instead of joining students to pressurize the state and government to provide that which it has promised. So the call that must go out is to say to vice-chancellors, join the students, don't be against the students, join the call for free education, free quality, decolonized education now. So the crisis really is a crisis of need on the part of all our students.
Wits spokesperson Sharona Patel joins us on the line. Sharona, thanks so much. Is it your understanding, or rather observation, that you misread as Wits University the situation today and basing all your ducks essentially on the opinion poll?
No, so like we said, the opinion poll was just one factor that was used by management to make their decision as to whether to reopen classes. There was a series of engagements with students over the weekend at which the students, in fact, agreed on a phased opening. However, some of the student groups have gone back on their word and what was agreed to over the weekend.
Yeah, it's also the question and concern about the intensity of police and security on campus, that this was provocative, or rather provoked students to retaliate.
Yes, so we're sitting between two things here. On the one hand, we've got staff and students and parents who don't want to send their kids to campus because they don't feel safe if there is no security or police. On the other hand, we have people who are opposing the private security and the police. Our suggestion is this. We said to the students, if you can tell us the academic program can continue without disruption, that there will be no violence, that there will be no destruction of property, and that no one's life will be put in danger, that we will get rid of all the private security and police. We have not had that undertaking from the student leaders yet. If we can get that undertaking, the police and security are gone.
Chris, just your observation, and it seems like there's miscommunication, or rather broken communication. Sharona Patel, spokesperson of it, saying over the weekend students were extensively consulted, and we hear from Stembiso here saying that there hasn't been that level of engagement.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the viewers. I think let's start by saying from the civic, we really condemn what is prevailing throughout the country, the manner in which the students are conducting themselves in terms of taking their grievances up. The vendor issue, we condemn that. But let me come straight to say that we are in a democratical state. If we don't really agree, we agree to say no, let's go for referendum. There was nothing wrong. Because there it was to protect those who cannot go out and make noise and those who cannot be violent. We, all of us, waited impatient to see what will be the outcome. And in a democratic society, stand as it is, where we are respected to be respecting democracy, one expected that we, all of us, respect the outcome of that particular policy. Therefore, I never, and I still don't understand why there's another call by the management to bring so many police to, which I agree with you to say, by mere bringing more police, it was a provocative action to the learners, because it was to announce the result from there, and those who are still saying they want to process, they were a measure to be addressed to say, we have agreed on the referendum, rather to embark on violence.
All right, let's bring in Tlotli Shope from the student movement, hashtag Take Wits Back. Tlotli, thanks so much for your time. Just from the civic organization saying that perhaps in hindsight, the poll results should have been honored in the 77% interest of students who wanted to go back to class. Tlotli? All right, Stembi, so if you'll respond to that.
Yes. I think that I have little or no responsibility to respond to unelected leadership of what. The only leadership that I will be able to respond to is the Student Representative Council, which is a genuine leadership that is recognized by the Higher Education Act of 1997, Section 101. Therefore, we cannot go around as the South African Union of Students responding to people who are unelected by the student board of that particular institution. At best, there is a sitting SRC that is elected, that has rejected the poll run by Professor Abib. And we have supported the SRC of VETS in rejecting that poll that is run by Prof.
All right,
Abib.
let's get to the legitimacy then of Take Wits Back movement, what they stand for, Tlotli, and what you would prescribe the method going forward. The deadline is tomorrow. If there isn't any semblance of peace and order, VETS is not likely to open. What is your view?
Okay, so essentially the Take Wits Back movement is looking for students to just go back to class. We're looking to shut down the Free Education Now movement. And basically what they're saying is they're looking to graduate. So basically what we're seeing is exactly what Stembiso is actually talking about, unelected students trying to overlook the majority that we saw marching today for student movement, for student rights. Basically, the privileged are saying that us as the underprivileged have no voice, and they want to just go back to class for...
Yeah, okay. Let's bring Tato Mokoena. He's Wits incoming SRC. Tato, thanks so much for your time. And we have conflicting views here. The hashtag Take Wits Back movement saying they represent the majority of students who want to go back and write. And we have Stembiso here from the South African Union of Students saying that the poll doesn't really hold water. What is your stance as Wits SRC?
Hi, the stance of the SRC has been very clear. We reject any poll because that poll in itself doesn't do anything for students, because it represents a student body that is students that want to go to class. I think that anyone in the movement still wants to go to class. But the issue is no one wants to go to class before free education. And I think it was evident in the numbers that we got today. Today students went to class. And we were outside before we were brutalized by the police for singing at the piazza without disrupting any classes before. And students joined the movement. Students joined the call for free education. So that poll is incorrect. I think it's correct that people want to go to class, but it forgets that people want to go to class when there's free education.
All right, Tato. So Tato Mukwena is an SRC member at Wits University. Sharona Patel, I don't know if you are privy to the comments by our panelists so far, that the issue is that students want to go back to class and complete the year, except it has to be done under a certain commitment that there will be free education.
And I don't think we're that far off here. So I just want to come in here. I'm so glad that you said that. Because as Wits said, we are basically 80% there as far as the cause of students are concerned. And we've offered three things. The first is we believe in access to quality free higher education. We're saying for the poor and missing middle because we believe that the wealthy should pay for themselves if they can afford it. Secondly, we're saying that we will go with students. If they want a General Assembly to be held as they've requested, and if Council agrees to that, we go ahead. We have the General Assembly, and then we will take the fight for access to free education and quality education to a higher level. We will march with them if they want to Pretoria. We will put it on the national agenda. So I don't think we're far off there. Where I think we disagree is on two things. The one is that we don't believe it can happen right now. We put a model on the table at the Fees Commission, and that shows how a free education can gradually be attained over 2 or 3 years. And we'd encourage people to go and read that submission. And secondly, we don't believe in the tactics used. So we don't believe that we should hold the academic program to ransom. We understand that's the only power that students say they have at the moment. But also that we can't engage in violence, destruction, and put people's lives at risk. So if we get, find a new way of doing it, put aside the tactics, and if we can agree on sort of timing of some sort, we can actually work on this together. Rather, we're not poles apart.
Yeah, it seems there is some common ground at the superficial level, but there must be somebody or something, organization, fueling the violence that we see. If the poll suggests that the majority want to complete the academic year, and we have about 30% that are protesting. Andile, who
I think firstly, the management and leadership of Wits University, including Professor Patel, the spokesperson here, are mischievous. This whole poll was a mischievous scheme to justify bringing the police on campus instead of addressing the problem of free education. Now she talks about they agree with free education, but everybody must go to class. And then saying students are violent. The violence of exclusion, this is the violence which is not part of the conversation. The violence of exclusion is what has prompted the students, not just at Wits, throughout the nation, to demand free education. In fact, the president of this country has already come out and said there must be free education. He set up a commission, has asked the Minister of Finance to get the money, but he seemed to be undermined, that's point number one, by both Pravin and Blayden Zimande, who went and told university to rise fees when the commission set up by the president has not finished its job. So now, we need the president of the country to come up and speak very clearly and very strongly to say this.
But he missed the opportunity at the education Mbizo, though.
It doesn't. We don't need an Mbizo, we don't need a commission, we don't need any commitment, any talks. What we need is the president of the country to come up and say there is commitment to free education. What we need is just the modalities of how to implement it. We know there is money in the system, there's money in Treasury. We are marching Black First, Land First Thursday to the Office of the Public Protector. There is 26 billion there stolen by white people, which is recoverable and will contribute towards free education. Let's stop wasting our time. Last year, students were out and the president said no fee increase. Why now this year we are in this situation we find ourselves in? It's because the president of the country is undermined by regime change agents who hope that students can be mobilized and then social upheaval happens and then there's a removal of the president as it happened in Brazil. So now the only way we can solve this problem is by addressing the issue. The issue is quality, decolonized free education, and it's possible. If our government can't give us free education, what can it give us?
Yeah, but are students willing to at least take that a virtue of a commitment or a proposal that it is something that is on the table, high on the agenda? It just cannot happen overnight. Stembis.
Thank you very much. I think that in that Lekgotla and prior that towards Menicom consultation meetings that have been taking place, all students have agreed that in the current epoch that we find ourselves in, we remain firm that the rich must pay. The moratorium that covered everyone last year cannot be feasible this year. As students have said, that presidential commission must finish its work next year, June. We're agreeing to that particular proposal. But we're saying after that, that's when we can be able as students to take it to the streets if that particular presidential commission does not make a commitment. Second to that, students went to that Imbizo yesterday and said if the president is not willing to come back, we're not willing to continue with this particular Imbizo. Then that Imbizo made a comment that students are going to meet the president before the end of the week. We are aware that the president will be addressing the workers, the World Federation Workers what in Durban on Wednesday. And we have made a comment that if the president is not willing to speak with students, students are going to enter that particular meeting and request the president to speak to them. That's part of our commitment to ensure that the dialogue in the country continue. But as these students are saying that we are not prepared to go to the streets and fight for the rich. The rich afford and the rich must continue to pay for fees in of our learning. We must not disadvantage the already disadvantaged populace of this country, which is us from the downtrodden masses of this country.
All right, Sharona, just what is WITS planning to do? The deadline is tomorrow to resume classes. That's if everything returns to normalcy. What is WITS' next move in the stalemate?
Well, at the moment, there's a group of former SRC presidents who are currently in a meeting with WITS management. They did meet with current student leaders earlier today, and we're hoping that there will be some sort of a positive outcome out of that meeting. So that's the first thing. The South African Council of Churches and other mediators have also been approached, and we're hoping that through some mediated form, we can find some sort of a negotiated settlement at this stage. They have told us that at 6 o'clock today, the senior executive team made a decision that they will try to resume the academic program tomorrow again because they feel that there's just too much to lose. If we don't go ahead with the academic program this year, there are severe repercussions. It means that the academic program gets postponed, exams get postponed, graduations get postponed. It means we could lose the entire year. It means we can't take in new students or applications for 2017. So it also means that many people's financial aid, scholarships and bursaries are at risk. And it's for that reason that we are trying desperately not to lose this year. We've also got, I've read through over 2,500 letters from students, parents, alumni who really want the academic program to resume. And if you read some of those emails and letters, they are absolutely heartbreaking. So we will try again and we will do our best. If we fail and if we don't get it right, it means we have to shut down the university indefinitely. And if we can't save this academic year, then we'll have to try again next year.
Shortly, as the hashtag Take WITS Back movement, are you willing to lose this academic year in light of the movement or the fight for free education?
I mean, listen, as Sharona had said, there are going to be severe repercussions, but we also think that there are going to be severe repercussions if we don't get free education now. That's another point. So essentially, Take Back WITS should also look at taking back WITS to students who are struggling, whose parents are bleeding every day to pay their fees. We're looking to take back WITS to cleaners who are cleaning our toilets every day. We're looking to take back WITS to who it really belongs to, and not just a bunch of Zionists who are interested in getting their degrees so they can only keep the gap between and the inequality going. So for us to resume tomorrow is also just not considering the fact that WITS has been in a state of inequality. Our students are, every day we line up for food while the white kids go eat in fancy places. We got shot at today. Why are we not looking at these things? Why are we just so quick to just go back to class like nothing ever happened? Are we really going to overlook all of these things?
All right, let me just get your counterpart there.
That's where WITS should go back to.
All right, let's get Tato Mokoena, WITS SRC member. Is it winner takes all? Are you willing to concede some of your demands?
So I do think that we've been very clear that we want a commitment and a date. And that is something that all of us have been very clear about. We want free education, and until there's a response to that, because unless our voices can cause harm, we weren't violent when the police hit us. You know, we were singing at the piazza where students always meet. And I want to outline something to Sharona. I mean, in December and January, the SRC is here, right? Sending students home because students don't have money to pay, right? Doing the work of the university. We see those students go back home. Thousands of students go back home as a result of them not having fees. So we are tired of being the bearers of bad news. We are tired of seeing students go back home because of a system that doesn't work, that doesn't favor the majority of this country, because we like majorities in this university, and the majority of this country is black, and the majority of the people we send back home are black. So can the university and I think the state, can the university and the state take very seriously the call for free education, because it's necessary?
All right, thank you. From the civic organization, just your response based on the comments so far.
No, I think it must be clear we must never fool ourselves as if we don't know what the government is doing. The government is trying its best to try and meet the demand of the student. And it must further be known and acknowledged that from the government background, they are acknowledging that they are of the view of free education for all. But here the issue is that it cannot just be now, that it must be known. And the other factor is that we must never fool ourselves by not letting the commission finish its own job. The moment it finishes it, then it goes back and report. We are able to say, where is it that we can start? In South Africa, I agree with those who are saying it's possible. If it happening in Germany, it's there, in Cuba, the most bankrupt state, Greece, is doing that. And we are saying we can also follow the very same route. The only thing that needs to be done is that the administration must be able to prioritize education. If they can give free house, why can't they give a free education? And it must be known it's not necessarily about a favor. It's the responsibility of state to ensure that they educate their own children so they become more competent to compete with other organizations in the economy.
Yeah. Andile, do you think while there hasn't been progress, there could be a political hijacking of sorts of the movement, which has resulted in this deadlock?
Well, luckily enough, up to now, the hijacking has not happened. But the forces that want to hijack this legitimate struggle of the students are at play. We've seen them today at vets coming out and trying to use this struggle of the students for their own benefit. What we must be clear as a nation is this. Free education is possible in South Africa, and there's national consensus. It must happen. Also, what we must take cognizance of the fact that the commission set by President has been overtaken by events. When Blade and Zimande decided to give the universities the right to raise those fees, it means he undermined the process was undertaken by the President. What we need now is to find a final solution to the problem. Free education must be declared. In fact, the President must simply literally call in the captains of industry into a room and tell them, you pay half, the state is already paying half. We must also move away from the hiding behind the rich. Tax the rich. If you know where the rich are, just tax them to pay for free education.
Semi, so just in summary, your thoughts before we go.
Thank you. I think the opposition as the union is quite clear on this one, that the rich must continue to pay. But I will want to dispute what Mr. Mkletama is saying, to say that the Minister of Education has undermined the Presidential Commission. Those things are two parallel things. That thing is dealing with feasibility. The minister has to deal with the immediate issues that are confronting universities. The problem is people who want to come and use genuine struggles. In as much as Mkletama is condemning what Minister Nzimande and what people are doing at VETS, he must also not try to grandstand using issues of students. These are genuine issues of students that historically have been fought with previously disadvantaged institutions. This struggle is not new, by the way. I think we must be able to let people know. This is not a new struggle. Just because it's advanced does not mean that this thing is new.
All right,
people must not want to hijack this struggle for their own self-understanding.
You engage in a dialogue on who's grandstanding and not, but we're fresh out of time, and I appreciate you coming in. It's Thembiso Ndlovu is the Secretary General of the South African Union of Students. Andile Mkletama is the convener of Black First, the Land First, and Chris Malimaja is Sanko Gauteng Provincial Chairperson, Sharona Patel, spokesperson of WITS on the line, and Tlotli Nshole, a student at WITS, hashtag bring back WITS movement or take back WITS movement. And lastly, we also had Tato Mokwena, WITS SRC member, and you at home, thanks indeed for participating as well. We take a quick ad break. We'll see you shortly.